setting the timer for a special edition of 6 Minutes of Witchcraft with me, Laura Tempest Zakroff. And it is a special edition because it's going to be 13 minutes long. I know, right? What came down to is I put a list of possible topics for folks to vote on the A Modern Traditional Witch page on Facebook. And the winner, well, there were a lot of close ties, but the winner really was looking at warning signs for covens. And I think to really talk about what the warning signs are, we need to be on the same page of discussing, well, what is a coven and what are the expectations? And rather than filming two separate episodes run right after the other, I figured let's just put them all together into one 13-minute episode, 13, because I'm a dork. And also, this is mainly because I'm lazy and don't want to have to deal with two separate uploads. So, first, covens and witches. If you have read Weave the Liminal or have heard me talk before at a workshop, you might have heard me say that I believe that covens are sort of a natural state for witches. I know, right? Blasphemy. That is because I think that witches really are loners for the most part. You do the practice on your own, you do the work on your own, and rather than saying that you need a coven to work together, I look at convening instead. So when I go to events, I enjoy sharing ideas and thoughts and processes and practicing with other witches and people of other paths. But that's not to say that I need a coven or a group of people in order to do the work that I need to do. So where really quick and dirty history of looking at how covens were associated with witches, you have to go back to the witch trials, and that covens, the idea of a coven, that there being 13 in a coven and all these different processes were really kind of perverted ideas of Christianity, because, well, mainly what the church was doing is hunting down people that they didn't want practicing herbalism, owning land like widows, having land that the church could use or that wealthy people could take advantage of. There's a whole long list. We could talk about the witch craze back in from the 15th century onward at a different time. But most of what we have come to believe what a coven is comes from testimonies that were forced, right, from torture. And Margaret Murray, who she did some good research and she did some really kind of questionable research with what she had in front of her, or not going to debate that one either. But essentially, a lot of the things that we expect now for modern day covens tend to come from this fantasy rather than what is a practical application of magical forces and witches working together. I am of the belief that witches were trained in more of an apprenticeship kind of system. Because when you think about shoemakers and blacksmiths and farming, all of these things were brought either through a family or that you traded off children, whoever was more adept at a particular skill, to learn that trade. And so you might be apprenticed or indentured to learn that trade for anywhere from a year to 10 years or however long it takes for the current practitioner to pass over. Now, that means that it's sort of a one-on-one, right? You need one person to do what's going on here. One witch per village, maybe a couple if it's a big village. And we tend to, especially because of what was brought through in the mid-20th century with Gardner and other folks, is that this is a revival of a pre-Christian religion, and we're putting this, this whole concept of goddess and god worship and the horn god, all these different things, which are great ideas. But really what they're trying to do is push this concept of religion into this coven structure, which essentially is a church. And let's say, right, the word coven, it has a certain allure to it. Everyone goes, ooh, coven. It's sexy. And there is a certain taboo and kind of naughtiness about like, oh yes, I'm part of a coven. And and that's kind of fun. It's really is fun to be part of a group of like-minded people and to get up to metaphysical mischief or practical matters, not necessarily mischief, to do work. So here's my point, going back to it. we have come to, in modern society, look at covens in a few different ways. That a coven is the only place you can really properly learn about witchcraft, according to those folks. A coven is a religious society, so it's basically a church, a bunch of people working together to worship, right? To have a common belief, and they are part of that little system. And there's a coven as a social group, right? And it's kind of, this sort of mix. So when someone says, oh, you need to find a coven, or you feel like you need to join a coven, first you need to ask yourself, what are you looking for? Are you looking to learn the trade of witchcraft? Are you looking to be a practitioner and really learn the ins and outs and everything that means? Are you looking for a group of people to worship with, to find some sort of common god, goddess, mythology system that you want to work with, and so you're looking for that? Are you looking for a social group? And these are important things to ask before you join any particular group. And so that almost gets us right there at 6 minutes. So, see, just explaining a coven took that long. And so I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that covens are bad. I just think that there's a lot of meaning and there's a lot of mythology that is wrapped up within covens. So that means it's kind of easier to look out for the warning signs. So I made a tweet. I tweeted the other day about people thinking that the craft is something that they should base their witchcraft off of, and how much be like, oh no, I love that movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's a movie. It's entertainment. Entertainment is a wonderful thing. It can be very inspiring. You should not base your actual practice off of it. And so there are some key things that I have seen, and people have asked me recently that I'm like, oh, really? No, stop watching The Craft and pick up some books and talk to other people. Is one, so if you're going to join a coven, you should see who are the other people in this coven. Do you know them? Are there long-term practitioners? Or is it something that they seem to be like a new group of people, like every couple weeks or every couple months or every year, like nobody stays with them? If they don't have a retention, like people aren't staying, and it's not because they're moving onward or going to school or anything else like that, that's a warning sign. A really good coven that is, whether it's a teaching coven or a worshiping type of coven, even a social group, should have consistent members that stay in the group and that people have good experiences from that. So what is the legacy? What is the reputation of the coven? So that is a thing. Another thing is watch the power dynamics. Some people think, I'm going to form a coven so I can have all this power and be in charge and be a teacher. That's a bad idea for running a coven. As I said back in the beginning, that witches can come together to convene, to share. And so even if you are in a teaching coven, you should be able to trust the person who is teaching you, who is leading the protocol. That you should feel comfortable. There are certain levels of discomfort when you're learning new things that you might not be familiar with. That is one thing. But abusive personalities, people who say you can't question what I'm saying, and they don't explain why, that is another big warning sign. Run away. Another thing is unhealthy practices in general. So this is 2019 right now, and your initiations and other sorts of practices should not include the transfer of bodily fluids. Okay? Blood, spit, sexual fluids, any of these things. Unless you are with your working partner. Okay? This is not a process of initiation. We have blood-borne pathogens, STDs, a whole bunch of other stuff. If you can't follow the Catholic Church and use transubstantiation, a symbolic process where wine is changed into blood magically, right? It's a magical process. Okay, if you can't take the symbolism and somebody insists that you have to, take in fluids of other people, generally not a good idea either. So you know, there are some nice romantic notions, but no, you don't have to do that. It's not going to make you a witch. It's not going to make you more powerful or less powerful. If you do it, don't do it. And that also feeds into another warning sign. Are you being pressured into doing something that you don't want to do? Again, the things that should not happen in initiation for most traditions is a sexual act. Yes, really. And I'm not talking in the very sense of like, that sunrise is an orgasmic feeling, and so it's a sort of a sexual experience because the whole planet is reproducing and cells are splitting. No, I'm not talking about that. I am talking about heterosexual or homosexual or any other fill in the blank sexual intercourse of some way that supposedly solidifies an initiation. Nope. No. Again, maybe you might be doing you and your partner decide to do something together that is a bonding thing for the both of you. That is a different thing versus somebody installing a power dynamic that say, oh, I am your high priest or high priestess, so you need to have sex with me in order to be initiated. Run. Like, don't even be like, hold on, let me click. Just get out. Because that is not healthy. That is not how it is. And, yeah, if you feel uncomfortable and it's not that, oh, this is a little outside my comfort zone and oh, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little scared about being initiated, that's one thing. But if you're like, I feel like this is not consensual, or I'm being coerced, or I'm being abused or bullied into a situation, this is not what working magic is about. You are autonomous, you have your own power, and you need to trust your intuition. Follow your gut. That's at the heart of witchcraft. That is the mind of witchcraft. That is the gut of witchcraft. To trust yourself and to take care of yourself. All right. So this is not high school, and there are many different ways to practice, but you don't need to fall into any sort of relationship that is not healthy. A really good coven really functions like a family. That you look out for each other. That you take care of each other. That you might call bullshit on folks when they need it, but you do so in a loving manner and not in an abusive way. And it should be a unit. So if you're going to join anything, make sure it's something that you really want to be a part of, that you feel comfortable with, and it's something for the long term. If you just want to learn witchcraft, that's books. There are plenty of classes out there where you can just take a class, take series of classes, see if you like a group. A lot of good covens will also have that kind of teaching offering where they say, here are the classes. And then after a while, if you're a good fit, they'll say yes. Checking the timer. And I've rambled right through there where you're coming up onto 13 minutes. So with that, you've got a little bit about what a coven is, what you should consider. There it is. There's our timer. And some really big things to watch out for. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to 6 Minutes of Witchcraft. There should be a little button that shows up on the screen. And leave comments if you have any other questions. I do have a list of things that I want to tackle. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye.